Alright, yo, we back with another video. So today we are going to be talking about uh who you should be, essentially, I guess you can call it a must summon after the fact of, premature death arc and of course hidden inventory characters dropping, because that's what everybody was saving since the beginning of the game. So as you know, Global hasn't been really good with his pacing, and there was a lot of characters to pull and all that. I'm not gonna lie to you, people like to complain a lot and shit on the game. Oh, they dropped this, they dropped that, they dropped this, they dropped that. Motherfucker, if you were playing fucking JP and you did not have knowledge of what character was going to come out next, you would have no fucking cubes. You have all this foresight in advance, bitch. You should not be complaining because they're rushing fucking banners, especially when 95% of these fucking characters you're not pulling for. I don't want to hear it. It's because you're greedy as fuck and you want to get every fucking character. That's the reason why. That is the reason why you're fucking upset with the game. Maybe it's just a you problem. It's not a fucking game problem. No, I'm just messing with y'all. But yeah, it does suck that they rushed a lot of the banners and all that. But I'm be real with you. I genuinely think it really wasn't that bad because there really wasn't that many characters that you kind of had to focus on. You literally only had to save for like the hidden inventory characters. Everything else was going to get rerun eventually at some point, which you could just pull later on at that moment. And none of them were like giga tier that you had to, oh, they're must summon. They aren't must summon. There's alternatives for these characters. It's just you're greedy and you just want to get this fucking character. It is what it is. So yeah, I feel like a lot of people's frustration is in the same time warranted, but unwarranted at the same time, if that makes sense. Anyways, we're not here to talk about, the strife between how Global's doing right now. We're actually here to talk about who you should be saving for and aiming for after the hidden inventory and premature death arc. So we're going to start off with Red. So Red, we've already gotten everybody from Toji and up. So we're not going to talk about these characters. They've already dropped. We already know Yuta and Toji are literally the strongest Red characters. We're going to have Mai. Mai is a debuffer character. She's very good in being able to debuff the enemy and do follow-ups. But if you're running a lot of buffers and stuff on your team, that means you get less attacks, which means less follow-ups for her, which means less debuffs, which means it drops her ultimate value. That means, in my opinion, you probably shouldn't be saving for this character unless you like Mai. So that's going to be pre-anniversary. You're going to have to skip her. Then we have Domain Expansion Gojo. He's probably one of the best debuffers in the entire game, and he is literally the best character in the entire game just for what he does. He's able to stun the enemy with his ults. He's able to decrease their ultimate gauge count. He's able to prevent them from getting ultimate gauge for some turns. He has a 10-turn restriction, of course, like most of the other Gojos except Team Gojo, where he would leave after 10 turns. But the good thing about him is whenever you ult, that turn that you ult basically doesn't count, meaning that you get one extra turn and it cancels itself out. So basically that turn that you ult, you get an extra turn. Definitely powerful character. He should be the character you're saving for the most in the game. But we'll kind of just go give a complete overview after I'm done talking about all the characters. So now Blue, we have all the characters from Yuji and up. So we're only going to be looking at Miwa and down. So we have Miwa. She's a complete trash character. Whatever she is trying to do, SR Miwa does better and is easier to maintain. So there's no reason to pull for Blue Miwa unless you really like the character. We have Blue Nanami. His damage output is okay. I feel like there's just better options, and especially future better options, that is just going to make him irrelevant. You have Blue Gojo, so Blue Gojo does more damage than Nanami. This is if we're talking about individually, but if you think in a team perspective, where if you use Domain Expansion Gojo on your team, Blue Nanami will probably do more damage than Blue Gojo, because obviously you cannot use Domain Expansion Gojo with fucking Blue Gojo because they're both Gojo characters, right? So I feel like Domain Expansion Gojo elevated all the other characters except the Gojo characters. So this kind of levels up a lot of other DPSs and kind of gives them more value over the Gojo characters, in my opinion. Now, obviously, there's just so much better damage output for some of the Gojo characters that even with Domain Expansion Gojo, the other DPSs probably don't make it. But yeah, Blue Nanami is definitely not a character you should be aiming for. Next up, we have Blue Inumaki. Blue Inumaki is an amazing character, especially like debuffer for the blue team. I don't think he's bad whatsoever. I like him. I enjoy him. I think he's really good. A lot of people use him. But I do want to point out that if you have Blue Geto already, you do not need to pull for this character. Blue Geto, in his own right, when he gets buffed, is, in my opinion, a lot better than Inumaki. He does a lot more damage. He's a lot better in a lot more situations because he's so flexible. You can use him in various teams, not just a blue team. I feel like he's going to be a lot better than Inumaki for a lot of players, especially if you're free to play. But yeah, plus he'll get a rerun when he gets his buff, so you definitely probably would save for Blue Ghetto over Inumaki, especially considering Blue Ghetto is a limited character, and we don't know how many reruns they're going to even do of these JJK 0 characters. Next up, we have Miguel. Miguel is a limited character. He is pretty niche, where you just want to use his effective mechanic where he can lower the overall effectiveness or value of an opponent's buff by 30%, I believe. And on top of that, he is able to lower the duration too, but that's very niche, and his damage, I would say, is subpar. It's very on like similar outputs as Nanami, and I just feel like he just kind of misses the mark, considering they were kind of trying to make him like a bruiser. He kind of gives me like Todo vibes, where they want him to do a little bit of damage, but they also want him to be beefy, and because of that, he doesn't fit anywhere because he's not doing enough damage. So why would you waste a slot for him? You're better off just taking a little bit of damage and compensating with some memories to give you your survivability, so that way you can do more damage. So yeah, I mean, your only time you're ever using this character is when the enemy's buffs are so powerful that you literally need to lower the value. Like, obviously, we had a Hanami event not too long ago where the Hanami has like 100% damage taken decrease or whatever, and then obviously you could just use this Miguel and then the overall value of that, and yeah, you'll be able to do a lot more damage to him because you just lowered the damage taken decrease from the enemy's buff. So yeah, very situational. I still don't feel like this is a good character, but his banner himself, the banner itself is really good because he has a very amazing memory. I forgot what it's called. I think it's called Good Job or Nice Job or some shit. And it's basically Inumaki and I think Yuta, right? Just like giving each other a high five. That memory is insanely powerful. Insanely powerful. Next up, we have Sukuna. Sukuna is the best DPS character in the entire game. You should be pulling for this character. No ifs, buts, or anything about it. I don't give a fuck. You're still pulling for this fucking character. That's how powerful he is. Next up, we have Green. So everything from Ghetto and up, we have Green, though, complete shit SSR. I don't really see her used anywhere. Green Maki, she's not a bad SSR in terms for if you want to use a damage character. And if you like Maki, that's good for you, then go for her. But I don't think she is a must summon. You really shouldn't be targeting this character whatsoever, because you do have alternatives like Green Nanami, who will get buffed, Green Yuji, who will get buffed, Hollow Purple Gojo, who will be in the standard banner eventually, and Green Ghetto, who we just got on global. So like, there's literally not any reason to pull for Maki unless you really like Maki. Then you could go for her, right? Because then you could use the DPS that you like, and she's not a bad DPS either. Nobara, I feel like, in my opinion, she misses the mark. She does good damage. She can get high damage, almost similar to Hollow Purple Gojo, but you need to have a lot of debuff setup, and because of that, that restricts her team a lot and her flexibility, in meaning you only kind of use the kind of same team with her a lot of the time, because you're trying to stack debuffs. Like characters like Mai you want to have because Mai can get a lot of debuffs on the enemy, and Nobara has like straight attack skills, so she can utilize the follow-ups from Mai, meaning you would need to get Mai and Nobara. It's just not efficient, especially for free to play, to even waste and allocate a lot of resources into these two different characters, just to allocate resources into Mai and then allocate resources into, of course, getting Nobara, just to be able to use Nobara. It's just it doesn't sound reasonable. It's just, don't pull for this character. Green Megami, he's actually a really good follow-up character. He does a lot of good damage. He's very good in the main DPS and sub DPS role. He has a lot of good survivability. I think this character is very well made, and I think he's going to last a long time. He's been, as time has been going on and on, he's been gradually increasing in overall value, especially with the potential boss that we got on JP, where it's a new game mode and you have like 17 turns. So when like you're stalling a lot, he does a lot of good extra damage on the side. So I definitely feel like he's a very powerful character, but you don't necessarily need to get him unless you're trying to 10 out of 10 the potential boss. That's where he's going to, you definitely want to have him for that, because he can do a lot of damage. The new Green Miwa, she kind of missed the mark, where her damage output really isn't that good. She until you ramp her up, and you have to take a long time to ramp her up. I feel like in her situation, she kind of felt like Blue Ghetto for me, where she does damage, right? And I'm talking about pre-buff Blue Ghetto, where she does damage and the damage is just not good enough. And then basically you have a conditional behind it just to do average damage. That's kind of how she feels, right? Like, she does fucking shit damage, and then she has a ramp up to do average mediocre damage. It doesn't make sense to me. You should be doing average damage and then ramp up to do good damage. I don't know why they're working at such a low bar for her. So she, yeah, and then on top of that, she needs to counter for her to get, you know, like a lot of her damage output is going to be from counters. So it's just like, yeah, I don't really like this character. A lot of enemies AoE and shit. It's just like, yeah, she just fucking fails there. Green Mechamaru, he's amazing. He's probably one of the best green DPS characters in the entire game. I would probably say even over Hollow Purple Gojo, just purely because, I mean, he doesn't leave. And then obviously as time goes on and we get more Kyoto students, he's going to have even more value. I'd say even without Kyoto student characters on your team, he does really good damage, like really high damage. Now, of course, you do need setup and you have to be maintaining your Mechamaru counts, but that's easy. That's very easy with this character, with his skill 2 being able to refresh the duration of the debuffs on the enemies, so that way you can have a higher count to do more damage with your ult and your skill 3s. Like, that shit ramps up too. Like, you're using skill 3, it will put 3 on the enemy, and then on top of that, you'll do damage based on how many counts you have on the enemy. So it's like, it's 2 in 1. It's crazy damage. Next up, we have Yellow. So Yellow, we have everybody, which is Team Gojo and above. So the only ones we're missing is Yaga, Yuki, and Yuji. Yaga's probably one of the best supports in the game, but it's not like you necessarily need him. JP, I don't have him, and I've beaten all the content in the game. So I think the only place that you really need him at is going to be Potential Boss, which is probably the hardest content in the game, I'd say. Like, in terms of if you're trying to aim for 10 out of 10. Because you have to basically go through over 100 million damage overall to that boss and multiple phases while doing it. So there's a lot of micromanaging on that. He definitely fits there easily, and he's probably a staple in there if you're trying to actually beat that. Then we have Yuki. Yuki is a miss because the rare version is a lot better than him, because he's more universal than the SSR version. SSR version, the only time you would ever use them is if you're able to kind of maintain your curse energy, because even though this one can also regen your curse energy, it's less consistent. And then on top of that, you would only use this one if you're trying to get a higher damage output, right? Because he does increase the skill damage, I believe, of yellow characters, and then he also boosts the curse damage of your characters, I believe, a lot higher than the rare version. But yeah, that's literally the only reason that you would use this character, if you're trying to reach higher numbers and you're able to manage your curse energy properly. Then we have Yuji. He's a amazing DPS. He's on the same level, if not a little bit higher than Team Gojo. If you hit your black flashes, your black flashes are the bane of this character. If you don't, or if you're not hitting your black flashes, you're losing a lot of value out of the character. That's the biggest problem with the character. On top of that, you have curse energy issues if you're not topped up before you do all your ulting and then your skills, because he does multi skills each turn. So basically, after you ult, you're able to use 2 skills for 2 turns, meaning you're able to use 4 skills in those 2 turns. So yeah, he uses a lot of curse energy. I really wish that it was more so that he was able to use skill 2, and it would only cost him 25 curse energy to use both skills. Like, whatever second skill that you would use cost you no curse energy. I feel like that would have been more better, or it would have been better for the character, and he would have felt a lot more consistent. And yeah, I mean, I feel like he definitely has a higher damage output than Team Gojo, but Team Gojo is more consistent and safer in a lot of cases, so that's why he still has a little bit more value. Now, let me give you the overall evaluation on what characters you should be saving for. So pre-anniversary, if you actually must, I would probably say Yaga's the only one valued, but like I said earlier, you don't necessarily need him. On JP, I didn't have him, and I still cleared all the content, so he is not a must summon, but he is probably the most powerful character, I'd say, for supports, like, to use. Like, I mean, not counting, you know, the main Gojo. But yeah, literally, we got past the storm, so there's literally no characters that we have to summon for. We just save for the anniversary characters. Domain Gojo, he comes out on anniversary. He is the character you want to target. He is your #1 priority. So when Yuji and Gojo come out, you want to get Gojo, okay? There's no ifs, buts about it. You want Gojo. If you don't get Gojo, I feel like the difference is night and day. Not having him and having him is crazy work. You need to have this character. I'm telling you, he is that powerful. You can run him in any team and he will overperform. He is the ultimate support character. Then you have... So now that we already talked about Yuji and Gojo, the only other character that you need to get after Domain Expansion Gojo is Sukuna. Even if he's not limited, this Sukuna is still going to be your main target. That's how powerful this character is. He is the strongest DPS. He does a lot of damage. His ult does a lot of damage. His skill 3 is essentially another ult on top of him. And on top of that, he does bleed, and bleed is like, it's neutral damage based off of his curse technique, meaning that he's just gonna do damage, a lot of damage, even to people that he's type disadvantage to, because it's neutral. It's just ridiculous. And on top of that, he has a lot of survivability, being that he's resistant to a lot of shit, while also being able to constantly heal himself every turn, right? He has a 25% chance if he doesn't get hit, but that chance increases based on how many times you get attacked with the character, meaning that you do have higher chances on healing more. But it's a lot, like the amount that he heals is a lot. So yeah, this character is the best DPS character. He has survivability, he has damage output, he can beat shit type disadvantage. Like, I did literally tower 1 through 50 using just fucking Sukuna as my main DPS. That's how powerful he is, bro. It's like, it's not him and another DPS is like, I would kind of debate that Team Gojo is probably the second best DPS after this Sukuna or Yellow Yuji, and Sukuna blows him out of the water. He's literally 2 times overall value than that character. That's how powerful he is. It's just like, yeah, I don't know what more to say. This is probably one of the characters. So yeah, the characters you should be staying for now is Domain Gojo and of course Sukuna. Everybody else, Yaga are the notable ones. Yaga, Yuji, and Mekamaru are the notable ones. Mekamaru's after anniversary, he's the best green DPS, I'd say. But yeah, those are notable mentions. But the main ones you want to focus for are Domain Gojo and of course Sukuna. Those characters are insanely powerful. Anyways, I know I lingered a little bit. I'll just go to the tier list real quick just to give you the reference, so that way you can know. And I'm not just saying this based off their tier list. I never use their tier list as a reference. I never use their tier list as a reference, the wiki, because I already know what every character does, and I can give my overall opinion on the character because I literally have 95% of the characters. So yeah, as you can see, Sukuna, DPS, SSS, because he is that powerful. Support, Gojo, SSS. So it's not like I'm talking out of my ass either. Everybody else also agrees with this. Everybody on the JP side agrees with this. Like, these characters are extremely overtuned, so they're literally the highest priority overall. And I'm sure you could be like, okay, I mean, I could just saw the tier list, and just figured out that I was gonna pull for those characters. Yeah, sure, but I gave you an explanation on why some of these characters are valued and why some of these characters aren't valued. So this can kind of help you better gauge, just in case if you do want to pull for some of the other characters that aren't these 2 characters. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.